Female Tech Founders Breakfast. We are super excited and thank you all for joining us this morning. I know it's super early for some of you guys, but we have a treat today. We have like a rock star entrepreneur that we're very excited to have a discussion with today. Um, but before I start this session, I would like to give you guys a little brief context around the Female Tech Founders Breakfast. I hope you all have your coffees and your breakfast out there as Angel and I were having our discussion behind the stage. We're enjoying our coffees and pastries. But uh, to give you guys a context of what the Female Founders Breakfast is and what our vision is basically to help and provide female-led startups by providing them the latest technology since Microsoft is a technology company. So all the technology trends that are out there, we like to bring our speakers to speak on that. So whatever product you are, make sure you're on top of your game in terms of keeping up with the trends. Another thing that we do is we connect you with very influential community influencers for you to network with. That's what this platform is for. The next thing is to provide you with resources, which we'll be sharing in this at the end of this breakfast, and also what the Microsoft for Startup um, program is about, which is another great resource for female entrepreneurs to really tap into. Then finally, it's just we're just here to provide you insight, whatever it's going to take for you to grow and accelerate in whatever innovations, tech innovations that you have. So before I start, I really wanted to thank General Assembly, which is our sponsor and partner. General Assembly is awesome. I remember back when I was an entrepreneur in LA, taking a lot of their courses. They have a lot of awesome tech courses. Whether you're a founder and you need it for your team, or whether you need to scale up on your self, it's a very good uh, organization that provides courses for the community in tech. Then last but not the least, I also want to thank Microsoft for Startups, which is also sponsoring this event, which we're a part of. And for those of you who don't know what Microsoft for Startup is, Microsoft for Startup is a program that Microsoft has in Azure. Basically, what we do is provide things like free Azure credits up to 100K in Azure credits for entrepreneurs that qualify for it. Another thing that we do is also provide entrepreneurs a lot of the free tooling or software that entrepreneurs need in order to succeed in their business. Finally, we also, as your entrepreneur, it's not like we give you credits and run off. You're actually paired with a success manager that helps you with your um, go-to-market strategy in order for you to be successful. So that's in a nutshell what Microsoft for Startup is. You guys see my screen? Angel, do you see my display screen?
Yes, it was
Okay,
coming up. It
awesome.
was churning.
Okay. Let me know when you guys can see my screen.
It went away now.
Okay. Hang on. Let me bring it back up. Basically, what the hashtag for this event, while we're waiting for the screen to show up, for those of you who are going to be tweeting, the hashtag is FTF breakfast. That's hashtag FTF breakfast for this event. So with all of the announcement, let me get started in introducing our honored guests. And Angel is such an amazing entrepreneur. And before I start, I really want to thank you, Angel, I actually congratulate you for being featured on NASDAQ's Times Square billboard last week. That was super amazing for some of us here in New York. I was like, okay, wait a minute, is that Angel up there? We're actually talking to her next week. So big kudos to you on that. But for those of you guys that don't know who Angel is, I'm gonna read a quick bio since she has a lot of accomplishments before we get into the Q&A. So Angel Rich created an algorithm for the stock market to win Goldman Sachs portfolio challenge, selling first market plan to Prudential, and with her becoming um, a founding employee of FINRA, um, authoring the first ever African American financial experience study, innovating the top financial literacy product in the world, and being named the next Steve Jobs by Forbes. Yay to that. By age 30. Angel Rich also earned the title the Wealth Pioneer. In 2009, Angel became a global market research analyst for Prudential Financial. While there, she conducted over 70 financial behavioral studies, including Obama's Veteran Initiative. During her first year at Prudential, she helped the company's annuities division grow from number 16 to number 4, helping the company save $6 billion in revenue. After Angel Rich left Goldman Sachs, she founded the Wealth Factory with a mission to provide equal access to financial literacy around the world. It has been named the best financial literacy product in the country by the White House, Department of Education, and JP Morgan Chase. In August 2017, the company launched a full product version of Credit Stacker. And in that first year, within 2 weeks of launching, Credit Stacker exceeded 200,000 downloads in 60 countries in 21 languages in 2 weeks. So that's amazing. It was amazing enough for Google to name it one of the top 10 apps in the world of 2017. So if we're in person, that's a big round of applause right there. So that's awesome. That year, Rich also released her first book, The History of the Black Dollar. In addition, she was also named Hamptonian of the Year and became a proud member of the 2006 HBCU 30 Under 30 Hampton 40 Under 40, and Google's top 30 Black female founders. Then this is the final one. In 2018, the United Nations named her one of the top 100 most influential people in African diaspora and one of 5 icons. In 2019, she released her second book, Black Women Politics, and was honored as a historic figure in the Sandy Springs Slave Museum. She is also a proud vice president of Financial Literacy Council after being appointed from the mayor of DC, and she's basically designing the financial literacy recommendation for DC. So there's a lot more, but since given the time, if we're to talk about Angel's accomplishment, we'll all just have to pull up a chair for 2 hours. So we're not gonna go into that. The next thing is I am dying to start talking to you, but one of the things I wanted to point out is we have a code of conduct. So it basically means, hey, we're all ladies here. Be classy, be respectful, and be your best. The next thing is after this event, we're gonna have the recording. We have a LinkedIn community because a lot of you guys, since all the events that we've been doing, have been like, oh, when get a community for us. So we finally created a LinkedIn community. And if you want to continue conversations afterwards with Angel, you can go ahead and do that. We'll also post an announcement. And it's also an opportunity for the audience to connect with each other, that sort of thing. But Nitya, which I'll be transitioning to at the end of the hour, would go through the details around that. Another thing we'll be doing is we'll be giving out awesome, well, I think it's awesome resources and goodies at the end. So be sure to stick around for that. So with that said, let's get started. So Angel, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure always. I haven't met you in person before, but each time I talk to you, I'm just blown away, and I'm afraid to talk to you the next time because you're always doing something new and exciting, and I'm wondering how many days in a week do you have compared to other entrepreneurs. So thank you so much for making the time to join us. So I'm going to ask Angel questions in the next 30 minutes. Then I'll open it up for Q&A for the audience to ask questions after that. So to begin with, let's start with Credit Stacker. After you invented this awesome algorithms at Goldman Sachs, you brought along a lot of change. It seemed like you had a lot of benefits, and actually, I'll say you had like a very stable financial career, a promising career going forward in the financial industry. What made you decide to leave and become an entrepreneur and create the Wealth Factory?
Yes. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Any morning that starts with Microsoft is a beautiful morning. What made me create Credit Stacker? That's kind of a twofold answer, but I'll be brief. when I was in college, as you alluded in my bio, I won Goldman Sachs portfolio challenge, and I came up with an algorithm for the stock market. It was in that point in time that I realized that there needed to be some type of game to allow people to live out their financial life without the risk of them losing their money. But at the time, it was a complete out of this world thought. It was 2009. Gamification was not a word until 2012. Financial literacy did not have standards until 2014. And the only thing in education technology at the time, which also was not a term, was Blackboard. So to say that I'm going to create this financial literacy game that has technology in it and, goes into the school system, people were just like, what are you talking about? So I decided to become a researcher. I specifically became a researcher in Prudential because, number one, they were the top financial services company. Many people don't realize that 98% of the stock market is managed by Prudential, as well as they were the only financial services company that did not take TARP money. So when the crisis happened. So I wanted to go work for a very ethical company so that I could learn how to run a financial services company on a high level. Well, after making them $6 billion, I then asked for $175,000 from my church, and I was declined. And I went to Africa, and they also gave me a full ride to Wharton as a part of making them the $6 billion and put me on the CEO track. And I went to Africa, and while I was in Africa, I met a little boy in a Wharton t-shirt, and I saw this little boy every single day, and it started to bother me. And he didn't have any other clothing. That was his only piece of clothing. And I realized that no matter how smart this little boy became, he probably would never have the opportunity to leave Salawa, let alone Kenya, let alone make it all the way to Wharton. So I decided to quit my job and create the game.
Awesome. So, what is Credit Stacker? What does it do? How does it work?
Yes. So when I started thinking about what is the biggest impediment to people being able to financially succeed, I would boil it down to credit. A lot of people try to focus on savings and banking, but you can have a lot of money in the bank and not have good credit and will not be able to buy a house. So it made sense to me when I saw Candy Crush make $1.4 billion. I said, my God, imagine if they learned something. And so we decided to place financial literacy into a video game where we reverse engineered the Fair Isaac credit reporting system, and we applied game mechanics to the different components that make up the credit reporting system. So instead of swapping around candy, you swap around credit types to be able to make payments as in alignment of 3 consecutive pieces. There's also an APR meter in the game as well that is dictating your score based on if you're idle or not, because if you just sit there idly not paying your bills, that increases your interest rate. You lose by becoming bankrupt. And then there's also questions integrated into the game as well to be able to track your financial knowledge, where you have to get the answer correct on the first click 3 times in a row in order to master the question.
So what's the age range? Is it just people like me or is it like college students? What is the age range that is using your product?
Yeah, so our entire intention was to make it a legacy game, and we're so excited that we did that. And what that means is that any age can play it any year. And so we've tested it as young as 3 and as old as 80 with veteran communities. And we also anticipate 100 years from now, people will still be able to play the game, like chess.
Interesting. So one thing I read is in your bio is Credit Stacker is in different countries. Can you talk about that?
Yes, that was actually kind of shocking to us, to be honest. Never, you make a plan and God laughs. So when we first launched the game, we thought it was just going to be in America. We originally intended it for little black kids, to be honest. But the researcher in me wanted to see what other countries would adopt the game. And so the very first day of us launching, we ended up in 42 countries the next morning. And then over the course of 2 weeks, or about 10 days, we expanded across 60 countries. And interestingly, Africa and Latin America are actually some of our heaviest users. 40% of our users come from America, but 60% come from the other countries. And so Nigeria and Brazil are very heavy users of our game.
Okay, so one thing about Credit Stacker, you guys mentioned credit score, and you just hit a key word. I grew up in Nigeria. We did not have, nobody has credit cards. There's no such thing as credit score. So I'm wondering, I know America has their credit system, but how did your app translate to other countries? That's the one thing that I was like wondering, how does this work?
Yes, that used to be my scariest question back when we were first like raising money or whatever, right? And then we launched the
Yeah.
product anyway. And after we launched, we started winning awards in Latin America. And we won awards like best app in the history of Chile. And then we won one for in Colombia. And we were like, what the heck is going on? And so we started doing a ton of research around it. And turns out other countries, especially namely women, were playing our games as a pre-immigration tool to prepare to leave their husbands and come to America because they're not allowed to manage their money in their respective country. So, and that was my theory. That was my theory, that people did not have access to quality financial education. We're the first financial literacy mobile game. So that was my theory. But to get comments back from women that tell me they're hiding in closets at night playing our game, and if it was not for our game, they wouldn't have any access to financial education. And they're like secretly getting their knowledge up to leave their husbands. I find it so interesting.
Interesting. That's that. I would never think of that.
Me neither.
Maybe I should use the app and strategize. So in terms of ranking, how do you guys rank? How is the app performing right now in terms of the ranking?
Yes, so we grew to #1 education app in 14 countries, top 5 in 40 countries. And as you mentioned as well, Google named us one of the top 10 apps in the world for the past 3 years. We are a member of the top 50 apps department with Google as well. We recently relaunched it as a paid version. So we have a new ranking going on now. I believe we're at like number 20 right now, but we just relaunched it like about 6 weeks ago. So to climb to number 20 so fast is pretty good as well. So it's still doing well.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome,
And we're
Angel.
excited to launch it as a paid version now. It's now $9.99, and it's been scaling and bringing in revenue. So it's been very exciting.
Yay to that. Look, with all those countries and all those ranking, I can see the numbers coming in, or the dollars coming in. So one thing that a lot of entrepreneurs face is user acquisition. So how did you guys go about doing user acquisition? Did you do paid ads? How did this work?
Yes. So, obviously I was a bootstrapping founder when I first started, and I'm also a data scientist. So when I started looking at the advertisement platforms to be able to scale our game, it was pretty much being priced at around $3 a download. And that's typically deemed the lowest possible that you're able to do. Well, we couldn't afford $3 a download. I needed to get it much lower than that. My goal was to get it underneath of $1. And I was like, okay, if we can get it under $1, I think that's a third, and let me try to cut this down. So I actually ended up reverse engineering Google, Instagram, and Facebook ad platform algorithms and created my own so that we can scale the game at a much faster and higher rate at a cheaper cost. That is how we ended up doing 200,000 downloads in 10 days, ended up in the 60 countries, and we did it at 24 cents. It was completely...
So wait a minute. You wrote everything from scratch, and that is what gave you lead generations to get 200,000 plus downloads in 2 weeks?
Yes. Yes.
Oh my God. So wait a minute. Go ahead.
The world kind of started exploding. I didn't actually realize how big of a deal it was. I kind of just did it to save money. And then all of this press started happening. And then I found out I had more downloads than any Black person in the world. I found out that no independent app had ever done that before. No app that is not pushed by a major corporation that just came out from an independent company had ever did 200,000 downloads in 10 days. And so then I get a call from Google.
Wait a minute. You bootstrapping got a call directly from Google. You got on Google's radar. Okay, I'd like to hear about this one.
So then Google calls me. I went through the house screaming. I was like, I don't know what's happening. Like, I was scared to take the meeting. I had my mother sitting with me. I was scared. I didn't know what they were going to say. But they actually were really nice. And they told us that we had the best algorithm in the world, that they had never seen anything like it. And they said, we're super impressed, especially given that you don't really have a lot of money. And they tried to get me to tell them how I did the algorithm. And I was like, oh, no. And so over the series of a few calls, they then let us know. They gave us a bunch of different awards. Top 10 app in the world, top 50 department. We're in a digital marketing partnership with them. We're in the Google Accelerator. Like, they gave us the whole full kitchen sink. You know, we still have weekly meetings with Google where we still work with them. And after a few different phone calls, I found out just how powerful the algorithm actually was and just how serious Google was about never seeing anything like that before. And so we basically kind of started having acquisition conversations. Like, okay, well, if you're this interested, go ahead and purchase it. And they say, you know what, you're right. And I can't get too much into the details there, but we've been in actual conversation with them about that. And then fast forward, I wasn't really thinking much of it. I had discussed it in a few interviews, and randomly one day, I'm at this movie premiere, and this executive from Warner Brothers comes up to me, and he tells me that he had just recently stopped a meeting because he feels as though my algorithm can help save them a ton of money because they spend like $100 million a year on ads. And I was like, $100 million what? And so he had me come to his office and meet with his lawyer and all these things. And we started negotiating all this type of investment. Coincidentally, later that day, happened to talk to this guy, and he owned the top advertisement company in Hollywood and was able to sell it off to NBC. And he says, Angel, I don't believe you. I don't believe that you're able to do this. So I went outside, I got my laptop, and I showed it to him. And he said, Angel, if you can actually do this and duplicate it for other people, you're going to be a billionaire. Long story short, he then tells me, hey, go off and do a pilot. I did a pilot with a very successful media company. I was able to transform them from 72 cents per view to a penny in 30 days. Had them doing hundreds of thousands of views where they were only doing somewhere between 60 and 100 before. And now we're in negotiation for investment into the algorithm. Yeah. Congratulations.
That is mind-blowing. I have never heard of that. That, you know what, you hit like a roadblock. And you it's almost like coming across There's no bridge. You build your own bridge to cross over. So that's very impressive. Well, due to the time, I wanted to ask you more details about the technology stack, but I want to get into other topics so we can revisit that if we have time, because I want the audience to also have an opportunity to ask questions. So, with all of this, it seemed like you were just a rock star, um, inventing all of this, getting all these accolades and whatnot. So I would assume you guys got mad investment. How was your fundraising journey? Because one thing I read in I think it was Inc. magazine, I heard that 2.7% of women um, actually get invested by VCs. But when it comes to African American women, I think the numbers are down to 0.2% of African American entrepreneurs get funded by VC. So as a woman, we're all women on this. We know, okay, things are improving in terms of investment, but we're at the bottom of the food chain when it comes to investment. So I'm curious, you as a female entrepreneur, how was your journey?
Okay, so let me just start with a little bit of updated stats that they don't talk about in the presses. Okay, it's actually sadly what we say is 0.02%. 0.02%.
Okay,
Okay.
so you're just making this more sadder. You're not helping the situation.
Words through, because that's actually us being cute and rounding up. It used, and I'm gonna just give y'all a little brief history. There was a thing called Project Diane that first researched this when there was the original first 14 unicorns. Okay, and in that original
Hmm.
report, it was 0.02%. Since then, you have different unicorns. You have myself, all these other people that have been promoting Black tech. So it has went up like 300%, something like that, of Black women that are now starting businesses. However, the pool of money is still the exact same. So when it was originally that 0.02%, the average amount of money that a Black woman was getting was around $35,000, which is dismal compared to a Caucasian male's million. Okay, so, or actually, I
Yeah,
think it's 2 million now. So they get like 2 million on
yeah.
average, and we get like 35,000. That's what it was. When the pool increased of so many Black women now coming in, it is now around 21,000 average. So the amount of money on average that Black women are getting has actually dropped. So while yes, it has improved in terms of more women doing it, but the spread is a lot thinner now. So the real number now is 0.00006% of funding is going to Black women. But we
Okay,
but we just still say 0.02%. Just
okay.
to,
Interesting.
so it is very hard. And like I always say, call me naive, but I honestly did not expect it. I'm from DC. I'm from Chocolate City. I went to Hampton University, top HBCU, and it wasn't, I really didn't have a chance. I don't want to say have a chance, but I really didn't experience racism growing up. And I got it a little bit when I was working in corporate America, but that was just what I would call medium racism, just normal racism. And so
Hmm.
when I was speaking at the Capitol and I was speaking next to an Asian guy, and he says to me, Angel, I can't imagine having a business as a Black woman. And I was like, what you talking about, Willis? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, I mean, as an Asian man, people just write me checks. They just assume that I know what I'm doing. I can't sleep at night because I don't even necessarily know what I need to do with their money. But here you are, one of the smartest people that I've ever met, and you have a hand in your face and a door shut every single place that you walk in. And he was like, and then once you get through the door, you have to go through another door. And you have to get up every morning and do this. And I was like, I've never thought about that.
But Angel, I read that you were in a competition once where you won, when you started, you won 200,000. So isn't that past the 35,000 in the fundraising?
So, so that was actually a misprint by Black Enterprise Magazine. We actually did not win anything in that competition. The competition that you're referring to is 43 North. You can watch the video on YouTube. It is one of my most painful stories, but I'll share it. 43 North is the world's largest business competition. It spans across like 130 countries, 13,000 applicants. Okay. We received a phone call. We received a phone call while we were in San Francisco in the midst of another accelerator. We had just kind of like soft raised some money, and we were told that we had the #1 application in the world. Okay. I'm going to just say that again. The #1 application in the world. Okay. So my lawyer is like, stop the presses. We're going to Buffalo. You know, we're going to be able to do this. And the top 3 get valued at somewhere around 20 million. And the top 8 gets valued at 10 million. Okay. And the top 3 receives $1 million in prize money. And the top 8 receives $500,000. Well, once again, you can go watch this video yourself. On the stage, they tell me that I have the best pitch in the history of 43 North. Okay? After that, I go back to my dressing room, and, you know, Forbes magazine waiting for me. I got Black Enterprise waiting for me. They're all like, oh, yeah, you're definitely coming in the top 3. We just don't know if it's going to be 1, 2, or 3. You know, let's wait and find out. We come back on the stage, and I have this thing when God gives me little hints, and God say, oh, girl, you're not about to win. And I was like, what, God?
What?
I was like, what? We go out on the stage, and we come in 9th. We come in 9th.
Wait a minute. You just got told that you had the best pitch. It's like the #1 app, but what happened between that you slipped to number 9?
I don't know. And you know what was crazy? Afterwards, and this breaks my heart. This is why I'm starting to get a little bit emotional.
Okay.
The leader came and said to me, we got to hire you as a motivational speaker. And I was like,
that was your prize for the night. Okay.
I was like, I'm sorry, did you think I was a preacher of some kind? Like, did you think that I came just to inspire you? Like, I came to win the competition. Like, it was so good that he was just like, oh, she's just a great we got to hire her as a motivational speaker. And then my Jewish lawyer, who I had been trying to explain the racism that I was experiencing, but he wasn't getting it. He was like, nah, but you good. He had just raised like $400 million with a company that I don't even think exists anymore. Okay. So he was just like, you know how they raise money in startup world. So he's like, no, you have a genius idea. You have a real product. You have this and that. So he thought the racism was in my head. And so not only was it not in my head, I also did not realize that I was a woman being discriminated against. And I had this Caucasian girl come to my dressing room afterwards, broke through security, got backstage, and she was like, I'm sick of this. And I was like, what you sick of, girl? And she was like, no woman has ever come in the top 8 in the history of 43 North. And I was like, what? And then the guy from the Buffalo newspaper also told me the same thing. And he wrote a scathing article the next day about how 43 North wasn't having Black people, having women win their competition. So not only was I being discriminated against for being Black, it was also because I was a woman. The mayor of Buffalo came up and apologized to us. My lawyer went off on the entire organization. But it was a beautiful thing, Miss Ruth, when I got named the next Steve Jobs, okay? Because the lady that was head of diversity marched into the governor's office of the state of New York, put my article on the table, and demanded that the person that was in charge of 43 North be fired. And he did. So
But
it's
one thing, Angel, um, I don't know. I think it was Beyonce when I read their story when they started out as a group. There was a competition called Star Search or something. You have competitions, people win, some people lose. I remember they were part of the losing team. But the thing is, the one that won, we never hear about them. So my philosophy whenever I look at things like this is it doesn't matter how you start your race, is how you end it. Because even though you walked out of their ninth place being offered to be a motivational speaker, last week you just graced NASDAQ on Times Square. And now you have this title, The Next Steve Jobs, and you're a serial entrepreneur and all the different things that I see you doing. I'm afraid to, like I mentioned, I'm afraid to talk to you because there's always something amazing coming up. So I'm glad you shared this. I had no idea because when, it's a reputable magazine when I read that. So I was like, wow, she was rocking since the beginning. I did not know you guys took a very ugly U-turn in that situation. So given the time, let's move on to um, talk about your next venture. It's called Black Tech Matters. So I'm curious what is Black Tech Matters? Because when I saw that, I was like, wait a minute, I thought there's a movement going on. Is there the same thing? So first, educate us what Black Tech Matters is.
Yeah, so when I got named the next Steve Jobs, it was really important for me to let the world know that a black person had got named the next Steve Jobs because they were so easily dismissing black companies and still are. I can't believe that I still have this conversation with companies to this day that bring me in for diversity consultations. And so Black Tech Matters focuses on students, professionals, and entrepreneurs and helping them to expand employment, education, and equity. And the entire purpose is to be able to expand access to capital for Black entrepreneurs. There is as we just discussed, there's a huge disparity in the community, and there's so much that needs to be done. But it's actually a lot less difficult than people make it. They have spent more money researching diversity and inclusion in the last 2 years than actually investing in it. So if we were to start shifting where we're having all these meetings and high profile conferences, one of the jokes that us black founders do when we go to these diversity conferences, we go around and look at the gift bags and we add up all the money that they've spent on the gift bags. And we was like, you could have had an investment. You could have had an investment. You could have had an investment. Because
Head
they're
jokes.
wasting while they are sitting there asking us what to do about the problem while we are looking at the money that they could have spent on us. It's like I don't think they realize how heart-wrenching that is or that we are even paying attention on that level. So what I would love for companies to do is to start coming together with checks where it's checks that are already decided that they are going to put money towards this. And that is what they do in other communities. But for some reason, when it comes to our community, all of a sudden, we don't need prizes, we don't need winners, we don't need investments, we need a conversation. We need to discuss the issues. And we've been having the conversation for 8 years now. I've been involved in it since, actually, I was on the first diversity and tech panel with Jesse Jackson at the Congressional Black Caucus. So I have literally been involved in these conversations since the very first one.
Not Jesse Jackson.
Yes, Jesse Jackson is actually a really great advocate for diversity in tech. He actually is one of the people that got the ball rolling, shaking down Silicon Valley. So, but yes, it's necessary though. They have to come with checks written where they say they're going to invest in these companies. Then they work with companies like us, which is also why I created Black Tech Matters, because they say they can't find quality companies. Okay, well, work with my organization, because I have a good 200 of them that I can identify for you across different industry spectrums as well as investment levels. And so I think that's really what needs to happen.
Yeah, I'm sure there's engineering, what's it called? I don't know how they recruit, but there's Howard University, there's Spelman. I'm sure all of these have computer science, electrical engineering, what's it called, majors that, could qualify. So I don't know how the landscape is, or even if we're in tech, maybe the problem is we don't even want to hop into it, because I was reading a stat last week that since 2014 to present, 2014 is when the stats, they actually did studies around this, around the top tech companies, to see how many Black engineers are hired at these companies. And shockingly, as of last year, the percentage is still a single digit. I'm not going to name the breakdown of all the different races, but they're in double digits. But when it comes to African Americans and Hispanics, we're in the single digit. And I don't know where the disconnect is. So I'm glad your organization is working on this issue. And one thing I wanted to ask you is, right now the nation is at a very raw stage when it comes to Black Lives Matter. We had the case with Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, now Floyd, which sparked the Black Lives Matter. So these topics are very sensitive. So for me, with your organization, what are you guys doing to help bring awareness to corporations and help bridge this gap?
Yeah, so
I did not pull up a book. Look, this is not Oprah. This is not the Oprah show.
of the history of the Black dollar. And so I really do believe that this book is the answer to a lot of questions, because I got that question so often. That's the reason I wrote the book. And what I mean by that is there's a lack of education that is happening across the entire country, world, in our race, in other races. We're not on the same page. And I use a very poignant example. I go around and I ask people to raise their hand if they read The Diary of Anne Frank. Everybody always raises their hand. And I say, of course you read it, because it's mandated. So when I look at the Jewish community, and I look at the Holocaust Museum, growing up was my favorite museum in DC. And when I go to other cities, if they have a Holocaust museum, I try to make sure that I go to those as well. And The Diary of Anne Frank was one of my favorite books. And so I started to think, why does the country, when 45 first got into office and they started messing with the Jewish community and the world was going off, I was like, they would literally go in between showcasing how wrong it was to attack the Jewish community and then show deaths in the Black community and then just kind of like dismiss it. And I was like, why does America care so much about the Jewish community but don't care about the Black community? And that wasn't even our country. It was boggling my mind. And I broke it down to elementary and K-12 literature, because every single person in America is required to read that book. Every single person know what it feels like to be Anne Frank. You know what it feels like to live a Jewish life and to be held captive and to fear for your life and all those different type of things. Tell me the book of a child slave. Tell me the book of a kid that's going through Jim Crow, or heck, even the 90s. Okay? And so when I started looking at different Black history books, I found them to either be autobiographical or to focus on a specific subject written by a lot of sort of modern PhDs. But I could not find a Black history book that went in chronological order and told our entire history. And so that is why I wrote this book. It is now being taught in schools and in libraries, and it is my goal to have it mandated across the entire country, because I believe that is how we will come together on one page. I believe that we are not understanding the history in which brought us here. There have been Black people that have asked me who Frederick Douglass was, and our own president didn't know who Frederick Douglass was. So there's obviously a disconnect happening in the education system. And I don't just see this as a Black history book. I see this as an American history book that needs to be taught in all of our classes. I'm also, from a technology perspective, working on an initiative right now with MIT called Hack Racism, where we're in partnership with Black Tech Matters. We're working with HBCUs as well as other schools. It's going to be a virtual event that takes place in September. Highly encourage everybody to stay tuned on the Black Tech Matters website for the update. But we're taking a serious technology sledgehammer to this, and we're building up network partners and board members to keep this an ongoing conversation for the years to come.
Okay. I know we're like over time, so I have 3 questions. On the subject of Black Tech Matters, if there are organizations listening, how can they help?
Absolutely.
You have this company, or even investors out there, because this is not just a corporate work situation, but it's also investors. How can they work with your organization to help bridge this gap? Because a lot of them are trying to figure out, okay, how can we help the solution, this problem, and bridge this gap?
Yes, that is definitely who we need, are the corporations and the partners, not only for investment, but also to be hiring partners, as well as just mentors and volunteers to be able to help educate people, and be able to connect and be liaisons. So you can contact us at blacktechmatters.co. I see somebody has dropped it in the chat. Thank you. You can go ahead and fill out a form there and join. Or you can just directly email us at info@getwealthylife.com. We are also raising for our company as well, Wealthy Life. We're in our Series A. With that, we already have Samsung Next agreed as a follow-on. We're just looking for a lead for our $5 million round. So we're open to investments on both fronts, as well as if somebody wanted to invest in the algorithm as well. That's been an interesting ongoing thing.
Okay, awesome. So we have 2 questions, 2 minutes. Can you give 1 minute answer for both? Then I want to give the audience the opportunity to ask questions. So we're dealing with COVID. We've never ever experienced this on a personal level, on a financial level. Since you're in Fintech, you're our financial leader. First of all, as an entrepreneur, how did COVID impact your business? Both,
yeah. So
both positively or negatively?
It ended up being more positive than negative. It was a little bit negative in the beginning because we do Black Tech Matters South by Southwest every year, big huge event, and we had spent a lot of money renting a little mansion and venues and stuff like that. So we lost all of our money for that, as well as some revenue that we had lined up. But I'm a hustler and a fighter. So we took a step back. That's one of the main reasons we relaunched the game as a paid version. We were able to get some contracts in. We have a new partnership with Experian going on. So it's been a very beautiful future that has sort of transpired. Last year, education technology was valued at $43 billion. It is now valued at $252 billion because everybody now wants financial literacy and online education. So for us to be able to have a combined product and it's a mobile game that engages kids, we've hit a home run.
Did you mention you just partnered with Experian during COVID?
Yes, I can't believe it myself. It was like
Okay.
it reminded, actually, back in the day, I'm one of the first students ever recruited from Microsoft from the HBCU. I don't know if you know that. And back in the day, I was just
No.
like, I'm going to send this application in and just see what happened. I didn't think I qualified, whatever. Microsoft contacted me the next day. The same thing just happened with Experian. I had like that moment and I was like, I'm going to just contact them. I'm going to just see what they think. And do you know, I actually have a real life partnership with Experian where they are integrating their technology into our app. And I am actually helping and jointly inventing credit products with them that they had not even thought of to go into our app. And they feel that we're going to help disrupt the credit industry. And it is mind blowing every day that I wake up and even think about it.
Congratulations on that. So finally, what tip can you give entrepreneurs that are maybe hit, cash flow problem, or are thinking of pivoting, or they're looking for loans? What advice or resources out there can you um, give as advice for them to cope during this financial downturn?
So this is going to sound weird, but the way that I like to come out of holes or cope with things when I have a problem is I like to think of the future, the present, the past. So in terms of the future, what is it that I'm stressing about? What is it that I want that I don't have right now that I need to create? And then I do like this sort of 10-point checklist where I say, okay, this is where I'm at right now. Number 10 is where I want to be. Number 5 is the middle point, and then I kind of fill it in. And then I put dates with it, and then I make individual tasks. And I literally project manage myself out of whatever the hole is and fill in those gaps. Then I say, okay, what's happening presently? At Prudential, we used to call that backyard on fire. Like, what is on fire right now? Like, what do I need to do and so that my house don't burn down, basically, and fix those things immediately. Then I go back through the past. I have an entire box right here of business cards where I sit and I go through. I keep business cards and certain papers in different piles so that when I have those moments, I can go and dig through and see who can I reach out to that can help me during this moment, or who did I forget to reach out to that I meant to reach out to before, and those 3 things end up helping to bring me out of whatever I'm dealing with.
Okay. That's very good. Awesome answers. With you, I can talk with you for 3 hours, so that's not allowed. So let me go to the audience questions. We have a question from Lola. What is Wealth Factory's monetization model? How do you guys monetize?
Absolutely. So we make money through our app that is actually now listed at $9.99. We also have a new app that's coming out, Credit Fixer, that'll be $9.99 a month. And then we also have our curriculum that we sell as well. That is $199 or $99 for the ebook version. For our actual business model, we have it set up into 3 buckets. You can either have one of the things that I just mentioned for $9.99 a month. You can have all three of the things for $19.99, or for $29.99 a month, you can have them all plus an instructor, as well as we have the world's largest compilation of videos as well, wealthylifevideos.com, as well as assessments, lessons plans, teacher's guide, and all that whole shebang. So we have come up with this business model to be able to be applicable for different audiences. So whether you are a single family that just wants to leverage our curriculum and play our game, or if you are an entire school system, we have 400 students right now from the Summer Youth Employment Program that we're working with. And so with that, that's across a large amount of students. We have been able to service over 500,000 people with our products over the past 3 years, and it's been quite beautiful.
And you guys partner with schools, right?
Yes, that's exactly what I was about to say. I'm on the board of the Charter School Development Corporation. We've done successful research studies with schools and banks. We are looking to expand further into schools and banks so that students as well as account holders are able to leverage this financial literacy, especially in this age of virtual learning and with financial literacy being mandated in 34 states this year. What better remote thing to focus on during this time than your money and your financial future?
Okay, awesome answer. So the final question is, well, second to the last, how were you able to maintain the app when it was a free version? Yeah, that's a very good question. When you're in the startup.
That is an excellent question. We were mainly maintaining it through investment, but also honestly through my book sales. I was reinvesting. While this is technically my personal money, I'm a Black woman, so I don't have the luxury of sitting around waiting for a magical investor to come along. So I wrote the book between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m., self-published it, and got Elijah Cummings' wife, Dr. Maya Rockymore, who is one of my favorite mentors, to write the foreword. She helped promote it, and the book started churning out money. And so I would use that to put back into the game to be able to develop the game. We also have contracts, and that's why we have that business model and working with housing authorities and schools and corporations, MasterCard, different places like that. But it was an interesting journey, and that's why we decided to go ahead and switch it over to paid. I feel as though $9.99 is very reasonable, especially when credit repair products and other ed tech products are so much more expensive. So, but it allows us to be able to generate revenue from it.
Okay, awesome. So in this portion, I'm going to transition to one of my colleagues. She's my co-pilot. But while we're doing that, I'm curious, you've garnered a lot of awards and recognition. How did you get on the radar of the White House with all the awards, the Michelle Obama recognizing you, the UN and whatnot? Did you just have like a good PR team that we can borrow?
You know, that's actually a crazy story that I should probably share more often. I don't really talk about it a lot. I just happened to be at South by Southwest. I was top Fintech company in the country at that time, and I was in a competition. Just happened to sit next to this guy in this place that I was trying to do a deal with, and I was talking to somebody else that was like a veteran or something. I don't know. I was talking to somebody else, and I just was sharing how I led Obama's Veterans Initiative research study. I designed a plan to bring the troops home for employment, housing, and education for Obama while I was working at Prudential. And this guy happened to report to Michelle Obama and was like her chief of staff. And he was like, hold up, what did you just say? So he then like had lunch with me and he heard like my whole story. He knew that a Black girl had did it, but they didn't know who exactly. And so that's how Prudential sent it off. And so, but basically, he then from there invited me to the White House. And I didn't even know that we were going to Michelle Obama's office or any of those things. He just invited me to the White House. And as we were getting on the elevator, he says to me and my chief of staff, and he was like, "Are you ready to go to Michelle Obama's office?" And I was like, "What?" And I just happened to have my mother with me too, because it was her birthday. So it was her birthday treat to take her to the White House with me. And my mother was like, "Oh my Lord."
Yeah, parents will always embarrass you.
It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. Yeah.
Wow, that's an amazing story. But Angel, like I always tell you, it's hard to get off the phone with you because I love your energy. I love your drive. I love your resilience. You're just phenomenal. Your accomplishments are just mind blowing, and I know the future is bright for you. And it's been an honor to host you at this Female Tech Founders Breakfast for Microsoft. Now I'm going to transition to my awesome co-host, Nitya. Nitya is the Senior Cloud Program Manager at Microsoft, and she'll be able to share some nice resources for us to benefit. Hi, Nitya. Oh, she's loading. Can
You're
you guys
making
see
it
her on
really
the
hard
screen?
for me. Yeah, you're making it really hard for me to follow you, Angel. But I want to,
Nitya, can
I
you
want to
hear
say I
us?
was sharing a bunch. I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we
Yeah.
can hear
Ruth, can
you.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to just say before I kind of share some of these resources and things, Angel, your story is phenomenal. Thank you so much. I was actually sharing links as you went. I actually think that stories and journeys are more important than anything today because people need to see representative role models. So I'm glad. Thank you so much. I'm not going to get on camera because I also get emotional, so that's there. But for everyone on here, I just had a couple of requests for you. I've actually put a link in there. I will post all the resources in. I don't want to share the screen and make it slow. Or let me see. Do you want me to try sharing my screen, Ruth?
Yes, please. If you can
Let's
share
see
your
if this
screen.
works. Yeah, let's see if this works. I might be faster, so kind of. Let me do that. All right. Do y'all see a nice screen with flowers and a slide?
It says it's loading.
Okay. It's a little bit slow at times, but I will put the links in the chat.
I can see it, Natia.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Angel.
Okay.
So
Okay, good.
everyone, yeah, so everyone on there, all I will say is the most important thing for us is there's a link to a survey. It's totally anonymous, so you don't have to fill in any information at all, but it's genuinely so we can do better. Just one thing you liked about this, one thing we could do better, and any other comments you'd like to pass on. So I think that would be good. The slide that I've put up here, I will also share on the LinkedIn link and put it on Twitter. So, and I'll post all those links in here. But basically, we had a bunch of stuff that we thought could be useful to anyone starting a founder journey. First and foremost, LinkedIn Learning has a ton of courses, and you actually get 30 days worth of free access. Most of it to me is important because you're hearing from other people's journeys. I mean, we've all got a whole bunch of self-learning that we do, but we curated a bunch of resources. Let me see if I can actually find the link. So we curated a bunch of resources in that LinkedIn page that has what we think are the kinds of courses people have usually asked us for, which is how do you raise startup capital, how do you create a business plan, and how do you communicate, pitching, talking to people, kind of like just exciting them. So there's that link if you want to go check that out. Second is we are all remote working right now, so it's become more and more critical that we can kind of communicate remotely and have our meetings. I know it's a lot of challenge these days, but on Microsoft, we have to do this. We are Microsoft, but there are lots of other options out there. Just want to make you aware of the fact that Microsoft does have an Office 365 offer right now that will give you free access to Teams with some of the pro features, which could be super useful for you for all your business needs. All the links will be in there. I've put the link to the survey. It's very, very short. Everything you say really, really helps us. This is the second one that we're doing. And we kind of want to make these conversations with community. It's about Microsoft. It's not about any of the stuff. It's about us finding people who have walked this road and kind of giving us an opportunity to create networks amongst ourselves. And last but not least, I'll just throw out the two other links in there. The last one at the bottom says Microsoft Learn. You can screen capture this, or I will be posting the links into the chat. It turns out that having credentials matters. Skilling up matters right now. And so Microsoft Learn, there are tons of other resources, but cloud and AI is where the future is. These are all free learning paths. And if you walk through them and get them done, there's actually something going on right now where if you are going through a transition in your career, if you are having issues, you can get certified for very little. Like instead of like the $100 thing, I think there's a skilling thing going on right now, which is $10 or something like that. But we can even try to help you more. But the more important thing is you can study, you can learn, and you can find groups of people to help you. So that link tells you kind of like the key learning paths for someone wanting to get into tech, but also with the focus on startups. So this is curated by the startups team. And last but not least, we have something called Learn TV. It's a live broadcast 24/7 on that link. You're constantly going to be seeing people doing shows on various things. We do hope to have more community content there soon. And with that, I'm going to stop because I don't think there is one other gift. We couldn't post it now. We'll be getting it on the 29th, but it's a comic. It's actually one of our colleagues is in Japan, and they create a really awesome manga comic. Now, I'm one of those people who loves visual storytelling. It turns out 65% of the population are visual learners. We learn more by looking at things than listening. So they had created a comic that helped you learn cloud and AI. We won't be releasing it till the 29th. So as soon as that's done, we will post it back. We will send it to anyone who was registered for this. We'll also try to put it on the LinkedIn page for this event that you see. So there are various ways for you to grab that. But other than that, Ruth, I think that's all I have for you now.
Okay.
If there are any other questions or comments, let us know. We'll also write up a post on this with links to the video and all the other stuff. Does that work,
Yeah.
Ruth? Cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And also, please use community, the network, the LinkedIn community, because even if you have tech questions and whatnot, anything that you need assistance with, or even learning about Microsoft for Startup program, learning about the program, how you get nominated and whatnot. Post all of that, and we'll reach out to you and make sure your questions are answered, because our goal is to help you accelerate your innovation. So thank you so much for everybody for joining this breakfast. I hope you brought some kind of breakfast and enjoyed it while listening to Angel. But thank you so much. I'm gonna open the lounge up for the next 10 minutes, just in case you were in between conversations, to wrap up some of the conversation. And remember, you can switch tables too. So thank you and have a nice week.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll get to the tables.